one of the TFMs on the west coast, west of the Mississippi and Texas. We're talking about settling, and the label is to settle or not to settle. So how many people have a dog that has challenges with settling? Oh, I see more hands. So we're going to talk about, going my, click. What is a settling challenge? Popping up, dogs that pop up, dogs that demand bark. You're sitting in your seat, the dog's demand barking at you, restless movement. So they're changing sides frequently, they're getting up, they're turning around. That's unsettled. Needing a toy for entertainment. Those are all indicators of a dog that's having challenges with settling. What is settling? What is the definition for settling? It's a dog laying quietly relaxed in any manner of given environments. There's a really good picture I found. That's a really good indicator of settled dogs. That is obviously an airport. The dog in front is asleep, the dog behind. The dog is awake, but look at the wake on the dog. See the relaxed eyes and ears. That's a very relaxed dog, and both dogs are very well settled in a busy environment at an airport. So there's a great picture of a well-settled, two well-settled dogs. Sorry, I was running, so I'm kind of. The reasons why dogs are not settled: petting and touching the dogs. So when they pop up and we engage them with touch, we pet them and stroke them, like I'm doing. Sealy, sit. Thank you. Mistimed or frequent food use. If we're feeding the dogs when they're down, and then they pop up and we tell them down again, and then we mark and we feed, guess what we've become? Human pet dispensers. Because they got ready for another kibble, so I'll stand, and you'll tell them down or sit, and then you feed, mark, and feed. A couple minutes later, if they want to get more food. So we are in the game with them. We're reinforcing that game. Eye contact. These dogs are going to people that can't see them, for the most part, or some that can have low vision. If we're using our eyes, and I tell my raisers this all the time when they laugh, if we're giving them those mama eyes, which is don't embarrass me in front of everybody, because we're staring at them, because they're going to do something and we're trying to tell them with our eyes stop doing it. But they get very attached to looking at our eyes. Delay in placing the dog back down into a down position. So if I have a dog that I told down, and my dog pops up, I know dog smells. My dog pops up, and I pet, or I feed, or I engage, and then after a few minutes I go down. I've actually reinforced allowing the dog to pop up. So we want to make sure that that down is really quickly placed back in, dog placed back in that position again. Dog remaining in the game. How does a dog remain in the game? And what is the game? Engage with me, pop up. We remain in that game for several things: the petting, the food in a big way. So you want to limit your food when the dog is in a down, because the more food reinforcement you give, they don't relax because they're doing what? They're rolling out and they're staring in our faces. Doing what? Begging. How many of us, if we had a sandwich in our hand and the puppy came and sat in front of us, would understand that dog is begging? We all would. We go, that dog's begging. They're doing the same thing with the kibble. If they roll to that hip, that outside hip, the right hip, and they stare up into your face and stare at you, and are constantly engaging with you in eye contact, they're begging. They're asking you for more food. So we want to start trying to look at them peripherally instead of straight on, and engaging them with eye contact. Oops, I went the other way. How do we teach settle, and how do we fix a faulty settle? So a faulty settle is when we get the older dog and they have that same challenge. So who just put their hands up to the other dog that had faulty or problems? Ray, you want to grab a chair? Who's on this side? Ray goes, what did I say that for? I saw hands. Put your hands up. You're all liars over here because I saw hands go up. You would come up? Yeah, bring it up. Okay, do you want to come over to this side and we'll have the dogs that have to cross each other? Say yes. Okay. So we're going to have you guys all participate. You just don't have to be on stage. So if everybody wants to go ahead and give themselves some room. Give yourselves to put the dog on the left side of your body. So you're gonna have to move your chairs around a little bit. And you put your dogs in it down. We're gonna have them on the left side. And put your dogs. Everybody at the table that has a dog. You're gonna have you participate. Oh, is she? Well, I'm going to show you a way to do it. It's really helpful. So I want you to notice the way that he just laid down. Do you notice what chip he's on? For this intents and purposes, we're going to do it with the dog on the left side, on the left hip. Or it's going to be on the right hip against my chair. It's just because it's easier on what I'm going to show you so that you don't actually fall out of your chair trying to do it. So if the dog rolls out and lays away from you, it's a little more difficult. So we're going to have you put your dogs on the left side of your chair. And I'm going to have you put a kibble in your left hand. Does everyone remember the, what is that thing with a pen and a pencil? What's it called? Protractor. The protractor. My leash is going to be the pen tip in the paper. So I'm going to keep it shorter, so my hand is going to be closer to the collar and to where the clip is. And I'm going to use this so it's going to be taut, it's going to stay on my leg. And the reason for that is I want to keep the dog's head here so that he doesn't turn all the way around. If he were on the right hip and rolled out looking at me, if you guys can put your dogs out there, so go ahead, you want them lined up with you. And those of you outside, you want them lined up again with you. So cue him to come beside you. If your dog is rolled out on that right hip, I'm going to actually, just for intents purposes, show you with him. So he's over on the right hip, or excuse me, his left. I'm going to put the food at his nose. I'm going to use this as the tip, and I'm going to do a half moon out. You see how easy I roll into that hip? Oh. So go ahead and put her down next to you. You can bring her in. There you go. Okay. Go ahead and give her the kibble. She's already. So now you're going to take the leash in your right hand, put it on your knee. You're going to put the kibble in your left hand. And you're going to take your hand at her nose. You're going to keep the food on her nose and roll out. So kind of go out and half moon, not down the side of her body because that'll make her get up. So go ahead and get her back down. It takes a little bit of practice, especially when they're excited by food. So it's just important to remain calm. Just go ahead and tell her down. Well, she's kind of halfway. You can still do it. Go ahead and go far out away from her body. And hold by her nose. There you go. Go almost to her head. There you go. Now back to the front feet. There you go. So you want to make sure you straighten their head back to the front to feet. Down. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things, so Maria's one of my leaders, and I taught her, because we work on collar response a lot, so collar cue was just moving your hand and the dog's responding. So he was running out to that right hip constantly, or excuse me, left hip. And so I had her, because she's doing a lot of collar cue work, just rotate her hand, and now he will just roll on that rotated hand. So he understands collar response, so he will just make that move by her rolling her wrist to with her thumb from the sideways to the front, her thumb toward the front, and he will move to that position. Okay, so everybody got their dogs situated? So I'm going to show you what I call the hover hand. You're going to take your hand, you're not going to put it on the dog's back. This is to prevent the dogs from getting up. So I'm going to put my hands just over the dog's shoulder. I'm going to hover it about an inch or two over the shoulder, not any more than that. And I can just sit here calmly and relax with my hand here. So if the dog chooses to get up, he's just going to hit basically a tabletop. I'm not going to push down. I'm not going to push the dog back into this position. I'm just going to keep my hand hovering, so go down a little bit closer to the body. So you want to make sure you bring his body in close to you so he's not looking at you. So you're going to use the food again. You're going to just keep... So keep him up. Start over. So again, she said, what do I do? He's on his back. So we want to get him back around in the same position. There you go. Now feed him. Okay. Now put your hand right over your shoulders. So relax the leash and just lean back and lean out of your chest just a little bit. So it's right there. See the difference? If the puppies get a chance to get up, you're just doing a yo-yo. They're getting up and they're going back down. They're getting up. But what happens in the middle of that? They get up and we do what? Oh, I'm sorry, it's getting boring, blah, blah. We have a conversation. And now we're starting it all over again. This is teaching them don't get up. And again, I'm not doing any pushing, I'm not even touching the dog, they're just getting up and hitting that tabletop. So I'm gonna sit here for a little while, and after a few minutes, we can continue to talk. You can do your meeting, you can do whatever you need to do, but I'm just gonna be the preventer to say, so we can cue that again. Do you notice how he doesn't get up so much now? He's not getting up, he just rolled, and I just cue him back. Because he knows that cue as well, just cue back in. So again, if I keep my hand there, do the same thing again. So you gotta get her down before you bring the food in. There you go. Now, hold a little bit more. Yes, back in front. Perfect. See how much easier she's moving over under that hip now? She's gently moving over. What's that? We're not using any marker. So hold on a second.
If we're asking them to settle, what difference does it make what position they're in?
Well, like I said, we're only doing this for this demonstration.
But this would be accepted.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it in a restaurant like that. If I have a waiter carrying a plate of food by and doesn't see the dog because here's the tray. That's a danger for the waiter and the dog. So most of the time in a restaurant, though, I'm going to tell my dog close, I want him here. But if I can't get him here because of whatever, I'm going to have my dog on the left side close to me. But I'm going to keep them. But also, in your meetings, you don't have that pop up, pop up, pop up. Why is settling important? If these dogs are graduating and going to a person that works, and let's say they're in a meeting, and they're a presenter, and they have that dog jumping up, demanding attention while they're presenting, or even just sitting in the meeting. That's difficult for them. This is a really important thing that the dogs do, is settle, and eventually they do that. Because they know we're not going to get it up, she's going to be talking for a while, we're going to be here. So they just understand, settle down and relax, and they usually will go into this position and go to sleep. So it's very simple, it's very quick to do, but it's just, I know it's sometimes can get like frustrating to do, but just take deep breaths, be calm, and make your movements kind of slow. What I'm doing is when I get the dog to roll to that hip, I'm coming right back to the front to feet. So I'm not keeping my dog curling around. Makes sense? Anybody have any challenges out there doing it? Okay?
She wants to bite the leash or the vest.
Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead, and I would shorten your leash up just a little bit. There you go. Now, take the length that you have your leash, put the food in your left hand, and hold your leash a little taut. There you go, now back to the front, back to front. Now, hover your hand over her shoulders. Go down a little bit closer. You kind of lean onto your chair. Go a little bit closer. There you go. So now, she can't get up, because she's just going to run into your hand. See how he's now used to that position? So I just am cueing him, just using 2 fingers to get him to move over. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any videos on this that we can share with our rangers?
Somebody over here is taking video. Oh, and they're doing video over here too. Yeah, forgot about that. I have time for 2 questions. Yes, ma'am.
So I've got one that he'll go down and stay down. He doesn't do the injection box thing, but he will keep his head down and just like
He's just vocally telling you he's bored.
yeah, and it's only when he's bored, but he will do it incessantly, but he won't move. And I just ignore it, but it's really annoying, especially when I'm in meetings. Is there anything to do to like manage that doesn't involve rewarding that by giving him something to do?
How often do you ask him to settle in other places?
Pretty consistently.
How do you do it on leash, like out in public?
Every day I'm at work.
Okay. No, I mean other than there.
Every time we're in an outing, so pretty regularly. Like every day he's settling in different places.
I found dogs that do that sigh like, when they're like in different places. I'm just going to roll over and act like that can just, cause me later for 2 years. That they are only asking, you're only asking them to settle in specific places, and it's places that have that boredom factor for them.
Yeah.
So I find that the more I practice settle with my dogs at home before I even go out in public. So when they're babies, I'm always working on settle. and it's starting next to my chair at night when I'm watching a television show or I'm working on my computer. The dog is on a leash and they're working on settle next to me. Yes, ma'am. One more. Depends on where I'm at. I don't want them popping up in church. I don't want them popping up if I'm in a meeting. Depends on the age of the dog. Well, usually you're going to take them out for what at that point? A bathroom break. Yeah, so if I'm taking out for a relieving break, they're getting a little bit of exercise, they're getting a relieving opportunity and stuff. But if the dog goes to go to a corporate person who's got business meetings stacked on top of each other and they're getting a quick break, they're expecting their dog to do this. They can't necessarily reschedule a meeting to go, oh, I can't take this long. So I'm just teaching, and I'm increasing the expectation for the length of time with the dog's age.
Yeah, all right, so in the training, start with something shorter and build a longer time.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
You start with, when you're first training, you start with a shorter time.
Yes.
And build eventually to a longer time.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm starting when they're babies. I'm short, a short period of time, but I'm doing it. Again, if I have something I have to go like a longer Zoom or something like that, I'm going to not necessarily have the puppy in a settle with me. Because if I know that that meeting is going to go a little bit longer, that's not where I'm going to have to work on that with the baby. But I am going to work on it with an older dog.
How long do I have to sit in this position?
So, do you see what her position just went to? So she's in what I call a sphinx position. That's a pop-up position. So you want to use your food to get her to go over on that hip again. So a lot of dogs roll to that sphinx position, then when you move your hand, they go, and I'm up. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. And this is a lot. This is a big, exciting environment for your dog. So they might not be as successful in this environment to start, especially with a younger puppy. So I wouldn't say, yep, she can't do it. I would say this is just too much excitement going on. She's probably at her wit's end at the end of this day in 2 days. So these puppies are done. They're like sick of working me. I mean, she's like, I'm down. You should be happy with that. So I wouldn't expect a puppy to be able to like accomplish this in this environment. Yes, ma'am. And that'll be the last question, guys.
It's kind of a double one, but I have a puppy, Nala, her favorite position, and she'll settle beautifully, but she likes to settle on her back, like a dead monkey. And I've tried to correct it, but she'll just keep putting herself back in that, and that's how she falls asleep. At what point, I mean, obviously started when she was a baby, at what point do we need to constantly correct that? Or is there a point in like, okay, at like 6, 7 months, we shouldn't allow that anymore? Or should we just never, like, always correct that?
I personally don't have a problem with dogs being back sleepers. Some of them find that really comfortable. He's one of them, and it's getting to be obscene. But I don't mind that at home, but he doesn't get to do that in public.
Well, that's what I mean. She's doing
Yeah.
it like at church and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
so I would be doing this. I would be
correct.
practicing,
Just
yeah.
correct.
When he's on a leash attached to me, and he's wearing a jacket, I mean, he's a professional now. He's wearing his coat. I want him out there representing our organization like a professional, even though he's young. So I want him to be laying appropriately and stuff. So I'm going to go like, if that's, upset, get up. I'll do it. Okay, I think that was the last time for a question.